In those days, it was a fellowship of 2 years. I knew I wanted to do a third year. It came down actually to imaging and EP. And I'll have to tell you, I actually interviewed in both for, because I hadn't decided exactly, so I was interviewing for going to a junior faculty place somewhere. The complexity was attractive, and I found that my two-dimensional imaging mind wasn't as good as my logic and figuring out the electrograms, and it just came so much easier to me. And so I really liked that. Plus, Paul Gillette was very persuasive. So I was his first EP fellow. Tim Garson saw the light about a month or two later and decided to do the same thing. So he and I were first-year fellows together, and we were first EP fellows with Paul Gillette. Well, I was one of those fortunate to be in the right place in the right time. I remember in 1980, the University of Miami, organized by Grace Wolf and Heinz Gelbands, probably more Grace than Heinz, and we met at their place in a conference room, and there were 19 of us. And I was a first-year faculty, no, I was a second-year faculty person at the University of Nebraska Medical Center at that time. And I got a list of the people attending from Grace many years ago, and I still have that list. So it's really fun to go back and look at it. But it wasn't a membership. It was like, oh, let's get together and talk. I can remember the room vividly. I can remember where people were sitting. We talked about tetralogy of flow, ventricular arrhythmias, and sudden death. Actually, tetralogy of flow, sudden death, and ventricular arrhythmias, and we were suspicious, but we really didn't know. And right from the get-go, we talked about doing multi-center studies because none of us had enough patients. And so that was kind of the premise of what has exploded into all of these multiple, multi-center, as we witnessed yesterday with all of these proposals. That's just amazing. And now you look at that room and there's over 100 people. It's been fun to watch. It was in Orlando in a bar after an EP Society meeting that we had at the Heart, and we were sitting there, and I really can't recall who actually said we need to do this. I just remember that Mike Solka was there because I was next to him, and I was thinking to myself, you know, I can do this at Nebraska because I've got a great EP nurse. She's still with me, Chris Houston. I've got a great IT person, and I've got all the things set up, and I was chief at the time, or just about to become, I think, and so I can do this. And so I volunteered. I said, you know, I think I can do this and have it centered in Omaha, and I volunteered to draft a data sheet, a two-sided, one-page data sheet. That's how it began. I have a bias there because I have really gotten into my later years quality improvement, transparency, and patient-centered care. I have found it's almost been career-changing to have patients and families involved. It's like we go in silos. We think we know what's good for families, and we do in many ways, but we forget that they have some really good points and really good impressions. Just had a patient that I'm dealing with right now, very long, very malignant, long QT3 patient, multiple shocks. And she's a lawyer, very involved in patient-centered care, and I basically lay out the options and she chooses them. I found, you know, she may be more right than I am, and she has been. And another example with her is he's got a really bad behavioral problem because of all the shocks, and we gave him Ativan because he came in with multiple shocks, and she said, I think that QT is shorter on the tele monitor in the room. So I saw Mike Ackerman about 2 hours ago. I said, Mike, so have you seen Ativan work? He said, yeah. I mean, so it's stuff like that that is like, parents know a lot more than we have given them credit in the past. So I really think that we need to involve parents more. Not totally, but more. So patient care center, quality improvement, the development with Steve Sessler and the registry now that has all the basis for the quality improvement. We're not there yet. We really haven't developed but we have the tool now, the database, to go that way. And I think there's just endless opportunities to improve. I think there's a big change, and my advice is to actually develop a passion and figure out what multi-center group, and there's all these that we heard yesterday, and there's more to come. Some of them will fizzle because of lack of interest. So keeping it simple, develop a passion for what they believe in, and then go for it, and work hard. Make sure you come to these meetings. Don't miss a meeting. Be active. Be present. Don't be obnoxious, but be at the table and be aggressive in the passion. Make sure that they can communicate that they are, and then work and follow up. Don't let it slide. You just got to keep going and be persistent. So that's a long string,